Hey guys, so I've been getting this question from a couple of you from the homework, so you can see an example of it on the screen. I just went into my homework and I pulled out the numbers that were generated for me. Yours will look very similar. It will probably have different numbers though, just based off of the iterations on Hawks. So the first thing, when I'm looking at all of these fractions, none of the denominators match, but specifically all three of them would have to match in order to combine them. So none of them match. So the first thing I'm going to do is factor all the denominators, and hopefully that's going to help me locate the LCD. And so when I factor all these denominators, you can see the factored form. X squared minus 25 is a difference of squares, and so that's x plus 5, x minus 5. I do want you to look at this one. With this one, it's a little bit weird. This is something that we looked at back a couple of sections ago. But 5 minus x is actually the same thing as negative 1 x minus 5. And so you can see that there. I'm going to now rewrite my fractions with the factored form. And so you can now see the denominators I've rewritten as the factored form. And so to find the LCD, I'm looking for any two that are being repeated. And so you can see here, I've written the LCD, but I want to show you where that thing comes from. And so I have the x minus 5s being repeated here and here. So I only need to write that down once in my LCD. And then I have the x plus 5s being repeated. So I only need to write that down once in my LCD. And then the thing I have left behind is this negative 1. And so I have that in my LCD. And then that takes care of all the denominators. So now I'm going to rewrite all of these fractions to have the LCD as the denominator. And so I want the first one to be negative 1, x plus 5, x minus 5. The second one to be negative 1, x plus 5, x minus 5. And then the last one to be negative 1, x plus 5, x minus 5. And so I need to multiply top and bottom by something to get all the denominators to match the LCD. So we're just going to take this one fraction at a time. So this first fraction, the denominator was x plus 5. I need to multiply to make it the LCD of negative 1, x plus 5, x minus 5. So the question you're asking yourself is the denominator was x plus 5. What am I missing from the LCD? Well, that's negative 1 and x minus 5. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by negative 1, x minus 5. And so that is going to go in my numerator. Instead of writing negative 1 in the back, I'm going to write it here in front of that x. And so I just kind of rearrange this. I have negative 1 that I put up front, x, and x minus 5. Now I don't need to write negative 1x, so I'm just going to write that as negative x, x minus 5. All right, the second fraction, the denominator was negative 1, x minus 5. And so what am I missing? I have the negative 1. I have the x minus 5. So what I'm missing from the LCD is going to be this x plus 5. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by x plus 5, x plus 5. I have that x plus 2 that's already in the numerator, and so here I have the x plus 2, and then there is the x minus 5 that I multiplied top and bottom by. With this last one, the numerator was x squared plus 4, but I'm looking at the denominator. I have x plus 5, x minus 5, x plus 5, x minus 5. So what I'm missing from the LCD is just going to be that negative 1. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by negative 1. And so I'm going to just write that negative 1 out front. X squared plus 4. And so now that I've gone through and I have made all the denominators match by multiplying top and bottom by something, I am going to combine all of these to one big giant fraction. So I've got my LCD on the bottom, and just keep in mind the LCD is that, but since it's all the same, I'm just going to write it as the LCD. I'm going to have this thing come down to one fraction, negative x times x minus 5. Carry down my sign, plus x plus 2, x plus 5. Carry down that sign, plus negative 1 x squared plus 4. And so now that is my one big giant fraction. Now from here, kind of my steps are going to be, once the fraction is combined to 1, I'm going to FOIL if I have that, distribute if I have that, combine like terms, and then factor, cancel. For the most part, if you haven't factored, you can probably not cancel. So these are very dependent on order. For most of the problems we do, if you don't factor, you cannot cancel. So now that this is when I've got all one numerator and I'm simplifying, that's going to kind of be my order of events. So up here, I've got some things that I can FOIL. And so this part, I'm going to FOIL that one. This first one, I can distribute this negative x. And the last one, I can distribute that negative 1. All right, so I'm just going to go in order from left to right. I'm going to distribute this negative x. And so this thing, I'm going to distribute negative x times x is going to give me negative x squared. Negative x times negative 5 is going to give me a positive 5x. The second one, I'm going to FOIL that. And so right here, I'm going to FOIL this thing. First, x times x is going to give me x squared. Forgot my sign. Outer 5x, inner 2x, which is going to give me, once I combine those like terms, 7x. And then last, 2 times 5 is going to give me 10. Carry down that next sign. And then I'm going to distribute that negative 1. I'm distributing that thing. So negative 1 times x squared is going to give me negative x squared. Negative 1 times positive 4 is going to give me negative 4. And that's going to be all over my LCD. All right, from here is going to be a matter of combining up a whole bunch of like terms. So I'm going to combine up my x squared. So I've got negative x squared, positive 1x squared, negative x squared. So when I combine those, negative 1 plus 1 minus 1 is going to give me negative x squared, or negative 1x squared, but I don't need to write the 1. My next one's positive 5x plus 7 is going to give me positive 12. Oops. X. And then my last like terms are going to be 10 plus negative 4, which is going to give me a positive 6 all over that LCD. All right, so now I'm looking for things to factor. And so pretty much anytime you have a leading coefficient of negative, we're going to factor out a -1 there. And so factoring out a -1 really just means that I'm going to change the sign or divide everything by -1. So I had -x squared, divide out a -1 is going to give me positive x squared. I had positive 12. I had positive 12. Divide by -1 is going to give me negative 12x. Positive 6. Divide by -1 is going to give me negative 6 all over that LCD. Now I want to check to see if that thing will factor this right here. Well, it doesn't factor because I'm looking for numbers that would multiply to -6 and add, oh, that should be positive 6. No, that's right. Sorry, -6. Multiply to -6 and add to -12. Well, there's no way to multiply to 6 and add to 12. And so I can go back in and put my LCD on the denominator. And my LCD is that same one, -1, x plus 5, x minus 5. And so the negative ones actually will cancel. So those are going to cross off. And my final answer is going to be x squared minus 12x minus 6 all over x plus 5, x minus 5. That would be your final answer. And again, because this thing doesn't factor anymore, there's nothing I can really cancel with my my LCD other than that -1. I hope this has helped. Make sure you check out some of the other videos. There's several more examples that will hopefully help you get through this homework.